West Wareham, Mass. 02576, to construct a shed located on Assessor's Map 86, Lot 1004B, 55 Fearing Hill Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak for this project?
Yes, David Silver here.
David, thank you. Mr. Bichette will speak to the project first.
Okay, this project is at 55 Fairing Hill Road, and the project involves the construction of a shed in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. A 12 by 20 foot shed is proposed, approximately 50 feet from the wetland at the site. The shed would be supported on 6 sonotube footings. The location where the shed is proposed is in the same vicinity as a previously existing smaller shed in the yard area of the site. There's no tree cutting that would be necessary or machinery to be used for the project. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 3.
Okay, somebody has not muted themselves. Please look. Who's not muted? Someone's listening to a television or something. This is not pleasant. Thank you for the courtesy. Okay, David, is there anything you wanted to add to that description?
That Dave Silver or Dave Bichette?
Dave Silva.
Okay. No, I have no comment.
Thank you. Questions on the board? We have anything from Michael?
Zero today seemed pretty basic to me. I'm good.
Thank you. Elissa?
No.
Ron?
No.
Kwame?
No.
Mary?
No question.
Carol? Sandy, I'm all set. Is there anybody online that would like to speak for or against this project? Hearing none.
I would move to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to close and a second. Michael? Elissa?
Lisa?
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Elissa?
Yes.
Sandy?
Lisa? We'll try.
Ms. Hurd. I got that one. So
Yeah.
the hearing, okay. All right. The hearing is closed.
We accept the project as stated with a -3.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second in favor. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Yes. Did you? Oh,
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Sandy? Okay, it's approved. So David, see Mr. Bichette before you start the work, but you're approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 17th at 6:30 p.m.
Here you go. All yours.
On the request for determination of applicability for Paul Summers, 6 Oak Terrace, Wareham, Mass. 02571. To construct an addition located on Assessor's Map 39, Lot T25, 25 Oak Street, Wareham, Mass.
Yes, is there anybody here to speak for this project? Please identify yourself.
Yes, Paul Summers is here.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
The project site is at 25 Oak Street, and the project involves the construction of an addition in the buffer zone to a coastal bank at the site. A 13 by 14 foot addition with an extension that goes across the front of the house, which is approximately 5 feet wide, is proposed. And this is approximately 50 feet from the top of the bank, which is a seawall at the site. The addition would be constructed between the street and the house as shown on the plan. Lawn or walkways exist on the sides of the dwelling currently. The addition would have a poured foundation, and erosion control would be installed on the sides of the dwelling between the work and the resource area. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 3.
Thank you. Paul, anything to add?
No, really, he described it as put on the plot plan for the proposed addition. Again, I'm hoping this is a favorable decision. It's going to be a straightforward, very simple project, and whatever's required, I certainly will do.
Thank you. Before I ask the board, I want to make that Paul and I are next door neighbors on his home, not where this one is located, but we do have a common lot line, and my cat visits him all the time. So I will ask the board for questions. Michael.
No questions.
Miss Hurd.
No.
Ron.
No.
Kwame.
No questions, thanks.
Mary.
No question.
Carol.
No questions.
My question, this is going to be between the house and the wall that exists there already, right?
That is correct.
So the wall will be the edge of the addition.
No, not quite to the wall.
Not quite to the wall. Okay.
We're extended out 13 feet from the existing house, and we're about 8 feet from the wall.
Okay, it was not staked out. I felt the wall was probably one of the outermost limits of the addition.
No, we are probably 8 feet from the wall, the existing wall on the street side.
Does anybody want to visit the site if it's staked out, or are you comfortable with it as you've seen it on the plan or may have visited it?
How about you, Sandy, since you know it? What do you think?
Well, I visited it and I thought the wall was the extent. I mean, it's all flat. It's between the house and the concrete wall. It's no closer to the wall, to the water than his hard walkway. So
you're saying no
question?
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. I mean, I thought the wall was the extent and he's not going quite as far to the wall, but I didn't need a stake to identify the location of this addition. Questions? We went through that. Anybody online that would like to comment on this project?
Yeah, just another question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Michael.
Okay, because the last 2 times you asked my opinion, you just said misheard. So I just want to make sure you heard me. All right.
I hear you.
Thanks.
I'm hearing none. No comments.
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Sandy, the hearing is closed.
Yes.
To accept the project as stated with a -3.
Second.
All in favor of a -3, Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yeah.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Sandy? Yes. It is permitted. And Paul, see Mr. Bichette before you start any work on the project, and thank you. Oh, I have a quick question for you. You're going to be parking off the street, right?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Have a nice night. Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 17th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the Notice of Intent for 290 Glen Charlie Road, LLC, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass., to remove fill located on Assessor's Map 127, lots 1000, 1008, and 1016A, 220 Glen Charlie Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for this project to
Bill
represent?
Madden, on behalf of the applicant from GAF Engineering.
Hi, Bill. Mr. Bichette, your turn.
Okay, so the project site is at 290 Glen Charlie Road, which is the Maple Park Campground. And this project is right next to the project we recently permitted to reconstruct the flumes under the access road to the campgrounds. This notice of intent is being filed to address a previous violation that involved unpermitted placement of fill in the pond by the previous owner. This issue was discussed during the previous hearing, and it was a requirement of the order of conditions that they follow up with a notice of intent to address this previous violation. So this project involves the removal of fill material from the pond, and the site is also within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. An excavator will scoop approximately 90 yards of material out of the project area, loaded into trucks for removal to achieve the grades shown on the plan. And that's all sort of within this area right here where the cursor is moving around the plan. Also proposed is to construct a small Traprock detention basin at the end of the entrance road, which is closest to Glen Charlie Road. And this would be approximately 50 feet in length and about 6.5 feet wide, and would be right up against the 30-foot no activity zone. And I'll just have Bill kind of explain the reasoning for that. I think there's a small area where it tends to, you know, wash out and gully a bit. That's why that is being put in there, I believe. We did get a DEP file number for the project, but at this point, I have not gotten any comments from Mass Natural Heritage on this project. So I would have to recommend a continuance for their comments until the next meeting.
Hey, Bill, can you comment on?
Yeah, sure. That area that we're showing the Traprock sediment basin is, that's right against the edge of the gravel road into the park. It looks to me that might have been graded in a manner that would allow water that collected there to drain off the site and you know, into the adjacent land. So in an effort to retain the drainage characteristics there, we thought it would be wise to place this this Traprock basin at that location so that we could intercept the water, trap the sediment, and allow any excess water to overflow relatively sediment-free into the buffer zone. So we took the footprint of what was there and we fit that little Traprock basin in there. There's a cross section just above the on the top portion of the sheet that to the right-hand side, that'll probably show that it's roughly 6 feet wide. That number 28.5, that's the elevation of the roadway. The 28 is the elevation of the top of the Traprock basin. We show it being excavated roughly 18 inches deep and filled with stone to trap the sediment. We also separate the filter stone from the subgrade through the placement of a piece of filter fabric so that in the event that basin needs to be maintained over time, it's readily excavated out and stone replaced. We also show a hay bale and silt fence barrier that's right at the property line. So really it's a filter berm of some type to trap sediment and prevent any alteration of the resource area. That's what we have proposed at the entrance.
Can you talk about the fill into the pond?
Sure.
What it will look like when you're done?
Well, what it'll look like when they're done is there's an existing concrete sluiceway that goes under Agawam Road. So starting on the, I'm going to call it on the north side of the pond, that's a concrete flume structure now that's in total disrepair. So we would like to replace that with a new aluminum structure, anchor it in place with a couple of 2 by 2 by 4 foot concrete blocks, remove some of the super stacks that are in that area from 10 years ago, and reshape a little of that disturbed area around those blocks, and regrade that off just slightly. I didn't see where I noted on the plan to permanently stabilize that area, but I would maintain that we would stabilize that in the manner that we did on the other project, the flume construction project. And seeing as we're continuing the hearing, I'll add a note for that permanent stabilization. That aluminum barrel section will be placed inside the concrete sluiceway. And what we tried to do is just maintain the top of the sluiceway. And I was hoping to grade it in a manner that we wouldn't create a situation where it would be a hazard to somebody if they found their way on the top of it. So we slope it off at a 5-to-1 from the top of the slope, which is right about elevation 25, right to where the road is, down to elevation 22. So we'll have a 5-to-1 very gradual slope, similar to what you see on other portions of the pond, particularly down along the west side of the access road into the campground. So,
okay. Bill, excuse me, Chuck, will you please mute yourself? Chuck.
Oh.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Madden. Continue.
That's a little time consuming.
That's fine. So,
okay.
So essentially what you're going to see is very similar to what you see along the west side of the access road into the campground. And it will be a gradually 5-to-1 slope beach area. It'll be strictly sand. There's no vegetation proposed. Historically, that's the way that pond was. And, we'd be happy to we wish we didn't have to remove the material, but if it's the wish of the commission, we will do that. That's pretty much what we will have there.
Thank you. Okay, questions, Michael?
No, thanks. Well, none, rather.
Ms. Hurd?
I guess the only question I had is that last comment by Bill. Is there any way that Bill can be left where it is, Dave? Or is it just...
Well, the fill is the subject of the violation. So that was put in there where it should not have been placed. And that's why the proposal has come forth to remove it.
And where, and the fill won't be anywhere near that place when it's redone?
Well, they're going to truck the fill away from what I'm told.
Right. But I mean, they're putting something back in its place. Is that correct or no?
No. So basically they filled in part of the pond previously and now they're removing the fill. So it'll just go back to being more pond.
Okay. But there'll be a beach or a swim area. Is that what I'm getting?
It's probably outside. It's probably outside the actual swim area for the park, but it will be a sandy beach area. We expect that the material that's underlying the fill is going to be very similar in character, if not identical to the fill material. So it'll be pretty close to what it was prior to the placement of the fill.
Okay. Ron?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions, thanks.
Mary?
No questions.
Carol? No questions.
My question is, people could still go down there, right? To be on the edge of the pond if they want to fish?
Well, I don't know if that pond is open for fishing. I know along the west side of it, as we go down toward where the gate is into the campground, like I know that there's signage posted about no fishing in that area.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody on the line would like to speak to this project? Are we good to continue it until the April 7th, waiting for the natural habitat comments?
Yes.
Okay.
I move that we postpone this decision until the next meeting, which is
April 7th. Okay. I have a motion to continue until April 7th.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, Michael? Miss Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Sandy? Okay,
Yes.
until the 7th. Thank you until we get the documents we're missing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 17th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for John Chuckran, care of Michael J. Koska and Associates, Inc., 98 Broad Street, Bridgewater, Mass., to repair a seawall located on Assessor's Map 3, Lot LC 128, Fisherman Cove, Wareham, Mass.
Is there anybody here representing this project?
Yes, there are. Let me just get him back up here. Hold on.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR assisting with this project. I'll let head engineer present, and I'm available as needed.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bichette, it's your turn.
Okay, just getting them back up here. Hold on one second.
I did, while he's bringing that up, that's quite a sight. And I can tell by the lawn that there's a lot of Canadian geese that really do like that lawn.
Okay.
I'm glad I went there on a very cold day and everything was frozen.
Winter forage.
Okay, we're up and I see Brad, so.
Dave, you're muted.
Who's muted?
Dave. Mr.
Yes.
Bichette.
There he goes.
Okay, there we go.
All right, it's up to you.
Okay, so the project site is at 28 Fisherman Cove Road, and the project involves repairs to a seawall along a coastal bank, coastal beach, and within a coastal flood zone. Repairs are proposed to the 290-foot seawall, which would involve the removal of a concrete footing and granite base blocks along the base of the wall, and then pouring a new 8-inch thick face and footing along the length of the wall for that stretch of the seawall. Once the footing and granite blocks are removed, the new concrete face would be installed, and then sand would be placed in that area where there's a void from where the footings and the granite blocks were. The sand would have to be a compatible material with the existing beach sand, and it's estimated that approximately 48 yards of sand would be needed for this part of the project. Forms would be placed along the wall in sections to pour the new face and the footing. The work would be done from the upland side of the site, and concrete would be pumped to the construction area, so concrete trucks would not be driving over the yard down the hill to the wall. The granite blocks and concrete footing would be removed and taken off the site or stockpiled away from the coastal area. We did get a DEP file number for the project, and they did have some comments regarding potential other permitting agencies that might need to review this. We did not get any comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries at this time, or at least I had not received any. So generally speaking, I'm fine with the project in terms of what's being proposed, but I would recommend a continuance at this time to wait for comments from Mass Division of Marine Fisheries.
Thank you. Brad, any comments on this?
My comments are that it's an overall improvement to the coastal resource areas. We'll be taking out about 4 linear feet of concrete footing and granite blocks that are in front of the seawall. So at the end of the project, we'll have an increase of coastal beach and potential land containing shellfish within the project area. I think it's a good way to repair the wall and secure it without increasing the footprint significantly. And at the end of the day, we'll have an increase in resource area. So I'm happy to be associated with the project. And I don't think that Division of Marine Fisheries will have anything oppositional to it because it's a good project, but I agree we need their comments. They may have some timing that we need to adhere to. So I'm supportive of Dave's input as well.
Okay. Questions? Michael?
No questions.
Ms. Hurd?
No.
Ron?
One of the questions that I had is we talk about, you said, Dave, I think 48 yards of sand is to be added. I know in projects past where there's been sand that has been added, is there any type of testing that we would want to have done or comparisons to make sure that the sand that's being put in is pretty much the same as what's there now, or is that something that for this project isn't necessary?
No, we would definitely include that as a condition. I mentioned that in my comment that we would have to make sure it's compatible. So yes, I would, in my recommendations, once we get to that point, would want to see a condition requiring a sieve analysis to make sure that the material that they're proposing to use is compatible.
Okay. And then you mentioned that there might potentially be other permitting agencies. Do we know who they are other than waiting on some comments from the Marine Fishery?
In the DEP file number comments, they mentioned that the Army Corps of Engineers may need to look at it, or there may need to be a 401 water quality cert. So I think those are things that other agencies would have to address. I think it was just stated on the file number sheet, but that's something that would come after an approval from us if we approve the project.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kwame?
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Carol?
No questions.
Sandy, I have questions. Is the seawall down there failing now?
It's in disrepair in the sense that I believe they've analyzed it and that it needs to be reinforced. That's why the material is placed in the front of it. So we're trying to get rid of the material in the front of it and increase it for the next 50 years or so.
So that's why the rebar was placed in front of the granite blocks?
I believe so. I'm as I said, I'm assisting with it, but I think that was the purpose, is to increase the stability of it. And it needs to be done correctly so that we can remove those granite blocks.
The stakes that were on the site, what do they represent?
They may be survey control points. I'm not sure what those represent.
So that the top of the new seawall will not go any further into the lawn than what's there now? Correct.
The top of the seawall is going to be I think it's 8 inches or so higher than what's there now. So it's not going to come landward.
Okay, it'll just go higher, not wider.
Correct.
Okay. Now, along that seawall, close to the stairs going toward the dock, there is some exposed rock. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Looks like some heavy duty boulders had been placed close to the steps. What was going to be done there?
Kind of up in this area here of the site.
Yeah, right next to the stairs.
Yeah.
Was there anything going to be done with there, or they're just going to be part of the new seawall?
I don't believe there's any work proposed in that area, just on the face and top of the concrete wall.
So those existing boulders will stay exposed as they are now?
No, I think the plan is going to run that right to the end. So those will be covered over.
Okay. Now in that same area, there is a bunch of riprap and plantings. What will happen to them?
They'll stay the way they are.
They stay the way they are.
Yes.
Okay. But they will, so you'll have to work around them if you're going to raise that seawall 8 inches.
Correct. There'll probably be a small portion would be removed and then brought to the top of the wall. For the record, my name is Michael Koska. I'm the engineer and that's responsible for the plans before you.
Okay. So all the work will be done from the upland. So that slope where, I'm sorry?
No, it will not all be done from the upland. We'll have to get down at least in to be able to lift the granite blocks out, secure them with some kind of stirrup to, haul them off, so that there will be some minor activity down there as far as by hand and so forth to remove them with the least intrusive methods possible.
So there'll be no machinery on the beach at low tide to make that happen?
There will be small machinery, what kind of mini excavator.
And how will you get that in and out of there?
Down the existing boat ramp.
Boat ramp. That's the minute I asked the question, I said, there's a boat ramp on the west side. That's how they're going to get down there. So Dave, we're going to have to make a stipulation that all work must be done at so many hours between low tide.
Yes, that would be agreeable.
Yeah, this is not something I had been made aware of before, as far as there needing to be some sort of a small machine on the beach. I was under the impression that the work was going to be such that they would pluck those things out with an arm reaching over the top. If there's going to be some sort of machine, then yes, we would definitely, when the time comes, have to condition that we have construction mats. If that's the methodology the commission is comfortable with allowing, and it certainly would have to be done at the appropriate tides.
Okay. I think that was me. So you're saying that the granite blocks will be stored on site upland?
Well, they may remove them completely from the site, but if
I thought I heard them say that the concrete blocks would be stored upland.
No,
Brad?
Once the granite is removed, it would be advantageous to haul it right off the site, since it would be the machinery would have it in its grasp, and therefore it would make all the sense in the world to just haul it right off site.
Okay, and the concrete that's going to be taken, the same thing with the concrete that's going to be broken up?
Yes.
Now, how do you plan to maintain the soil in the upland when all this machinery is going to be going over it during the soft soil time, as opposed to winter?
That would be accomplished with landscape mats, so that the equipment would be going over the mats that would be covering the lawn area, and hence creating no or very minor disturbance.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody online that would like to speak for this project, for or against this project? I'm seeing none. I'll take a motion. Do you think we would have the answers from Mass Marine Fisheries by the 7th, Dave?
I think we should by then, yes.
Then I'd take a motion to continue until April 7th.
Motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Sandy? We're continued until the 7th, waiting for some input from Mass Marine Fisheries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, members of the commission.
Thank you very much for the time of the commission tonight. Thank you.
You.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 17th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for TJP Realty Trust, LLC, care of Cape and Islands Engineering, 800 Falmouth Road, Suite 301C, Mashpee, Mass. 02649, to widen and resurface a gravel roadway located on Assessor's Map 20, lots 1040-A and 1042-A, Shell Lane, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Anybody here representing this project?
Good evening, Matt Costa for the record.
The what?
Okay. So, Mr. Bichette?
Okay, so the project site is at Shell Lane, which is off of Lydia's Island Road. And the project involves improving a roadway in the buffer zone to a salt marsh and within a coastal flood zone.
Well, you know something.
It's proposed to regrade and expand Shell Lane slightly in the buffer zone to salt marsh, and with the limit of work being approximately 25 feet to the edge of the marsh, and also in a flood zone VE elevation 18. Some of the work appears to be just within the 30-foot no activity zone, but that's pretty much where part of the road already exists. The area has been staked out in terms of the roadway work and the limit of work. We did have a site visit there where we had asked for some minor adjustments to be made to the plan, and those are reflected in the plan that you're currently looking at, which is a revised plan. The road would continue to be a gravel road and would be pitched in such a way that it would angle towards the upland side, so that any runoff would be directed towards the upland side and into some small drainage swales that are proposed along the upland edge of the road, as shown on the plan. Erosion control would be installed between the limit of the work and the wetland resource area. We did get a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added condition that the surface material be a natural gravel type material and not reprocessed asphalt or something of that nature. That the roadway remain as a pervious surface and not paved, and that any road width increase be made towards the upland side of the roadway. And I think that's reflected in this revised plan. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, wait a second. I'm still writing fast as I can. Matt, anything to add?
No, this is the original plan though. The one I emailed over is slightly different. We just slid the road about 10 inches to a foot, the gravel surface, so that it lined up with that existing edge of roadway. But yeah, Dave covered it all, so I really don't have anything else to add.
Okay, this is the revised plan. I pulled up the wrong one. So this is the revised plan.
See, you never noticed there was a difference other than a stake has been moved 10 inches one way or the other away from the wetlands. This road is being asked by planning board to be improved to a 12-foot wide road because they're going to put 2 house lots down there, and planning said you had to have a better road. So I just wanted the board to know why this was happening. So questions on the board, Michael?
I was there yesterday, and after seeing the new plan and hearing Dave's description, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Ms. Hurd.
No, I don't have any questions right
Ron.
No, overall, it looks like it is for the betterment of some new houses and whatnot that might be going down there. So I don't have issues.
Kwame.
No questions. Thank you.
Mary.
Question.
Carol. No questions.
Sandy. No questions.
Sandy,
Anybody?
Question.
Yes.
And that is, this is a private road, correct? I mean, there's a sign outside of the Lydia Islands Road that this is a private road.
That's correct.
Yes.
Right.
It's
So,
not a town road.
No, so any maintenance on this gravel would be done by the residents.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's important to note because it can be really tough to get everything, cleaned up, and Lydia Islands has had some issues with potholes and all that, like all the other dirt roads.
That would be a nice addition to the conditions, all plowing. The gravel
plowing is done privately. If it's a private
no. I was going to say all plowing. The gravel must be moved away from the wetlands. Because that slope could very well be as much as a foot taller on the water side than it currently is in order to make it slope. And I just don't want somebody coming along and level plowing the whole thing and we lose the slope. So Mr. Bichette, I'm going to ask that we put something in the order of conditions that the gravel, when plowing, the gravel cannot be placed toward the wetlands.
Yes, definitely. I mean, with any luck, they'll find somebody, if it needs to get plowed, who will know what they're doing and won't totally tear up the whole thing. So, but yes, I think they will have to maintain the proposed grade, in perpetuity.
Is there anybody online that would like to comment on this?
Yes, Mrs. Chair, Madam Chair.
Okay, identify yourself, please.
Certainly. My name is Robert Dermody, and I live at 8 Shell Lane, adjacent to the 2 new house lots.
Okay.
So a couple of things, just a couple of comments and questions. My sister and I share the cottage there, and we're glad that the road is going to be improved. It's welcomed. It's in really poor condition, so that's a good thing. I just want whomever to be aware that we have utilities that run under the road, but I do not think they're in the work zone, but I just wanted to let somebody know that. And they're at station 4+88, I believe. So it's our electricity and cable TV running from the last utility pole to our house.
Okay.
They're buried. I don't think it'll be an issue, but I didn't see it on the plan, and I just wanted to get that out there. So whoever.
Sure. Okay. So for the gravel surface, we're going to be just adding gravel to the top of it.
Okay.
But when they do the excavation, which will be very shallow excavation for the drainage swales, which are in that light brown, that entire area would be dig saved first.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I don't expect it to be an issue. I just wanted to friendly reminder.
Okay, Robert, are utilities underground the whole length of Shell Lane? Because I thought I remember poles.
No, there are no utilities in the work zone to the best of my knowledge and belief. They begin at station 500.
Okay, where's station 500 on this thing? Is that the end of the
Sandy, basically they just go from the telephone pole under the road to the house. So they cut across the road. They're not going the length of the road.
Okay. But are they in Shell Lane as we're seeing the dark gray?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then a couple more questions, if I may, please, quickly.
Yes.
So in the notice of intent, section A.6, general information, there's a sentence that reads, remove 2 trees with the associated clearing, graded, remove 2 trees with the associated clearing, grading, and utilities, period. I'm just curious as to what the word utilities means there.
It's rather generic language.
Okay.
Be like the drainage swales. It's kind of like a catch-all.
All right, fine.
And the trees to be removed, I think they're marked with a red flag. There's two pretty ugly pine trees that are awful close to the road, and one hardwood that should be removed because they're having to move the road slightly more upland in order to keep the distance from the wetlands. So we may see as many as 4 trees down, I think. Right, Matt?
Yeah, I think you're right. We were looking at those 2 scrub pines and 2 non-specimen hardwoods, as you say.
Yeah, they were covered with moss, so they're not too happy. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Robert?
Yeah, just 2 more quick things. There's another sentence that may be a standard boilerplate language, but I do want to make a comment. It talks in section 5.0, the proposed project, and it notes that any disturbed areas will be loamed and seeded in order to be stabilized. But from my understanding of observing the staked out areas this weekend, that there's no seed there to begin with. It's all very wild vegetation. So I don't see the need for like green grass seeding to go in there, and just sort of request from the proponent if it could be something more natural to go in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be some areas around the drainage swales. After they put everything together, they might do some sort of a natural mixture like rise and fescues or something like that, just to stabilize it rather than wood chips.
All right. Actually, that side of the road, I'm not too concerned about with the swales. That's the new owners, of those lots. I was the opposite side. I was more concerned about where my sister.
Yeah, we're specifically trying to keep the activity on the wetland side limited to the edge of the existing graveled way.
Oh, good.
And it include just adding new gravel to the existing.
Okay. And then lastly, my sister and I would like to be notified of when the filtration barrier goes in. Would really like to get a look at that because there are some trees on our property that we're concerned about that may be near that barrier.
Filtration barrier?
The siltation sock, or I'm not sure the correct term.
Oh, the limit of work line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just I saw the stakes this weekend, but I'd just be as a friendly request, if it's possible, if the proponent could notify us of when that goes in.
Sure. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, those stakes in the field are going to get moved slightly. About a foot or so, there's going to be some stakes moved around.
Foot or so in which direction, please?
Away from the wetland.
Oh, great. That's good news. Thank you, Matt. And no further questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on this project?
Madam Chair, may I ask a question? This is Mary Dermody.
Yes.
You mentioned 3 additional trees. Could you just highlight in what potential area that is? Because as my brother mentioned, we're just concerned about trees that are on our property and just making sure that.
Okay. Let's see.
The trees are all going to be on the non-wetland side. So there's no trees proposed to be removed on the wetland side of the road work, only on the side where these new lots are being created.
Right. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So the one tree, as you come on to Shell Lane, has a red flag on it. But do you see the section that says the chain link fence might be removed in order to do the work?
If it's on the property for
right there. See where Dave's putting there?
Yep.
That's where those couple trees we talked about, the scrub pine and the deciduous that doesn't look like too good. That's where those trees are going to be coming from, all from upland.
Okay, great. My concern is on the other side of the road, which is our property.
Yep. Thank you. Nope. Going to do as little as we can to disturb the wetland side.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Yes, I had one question. My name is Mark Conley, and I see the 100-foot buffer zone, the green line that's into the lots. And I know that work is within the 100-foot buffer. Would the houses that are being built there have to be behind that line?
No, they would not have to be behind that line. But if work was going to be done within that area, then that would require a review and approval from the Conservation Commission for those individual projects, which I think is going to have to occur because there's no way to get in and out of the lots unless you're going to do some work within that area. So, to answer your question, the house could be within that 100-foot line.
Okay. It's very close to the 60-foot setback. I was just curious. So I guess the work that would need to be done within there would just be the driveway to get into the lot.
Correct. If that, depending on what you're proposing or whoever builds there, we obviously don't know what that is yet, so it's hard to say.
And would that be an impervious material, or would that be able to be paved?
Don't know until we see the plan.
Typically, if it were to be proposed to be paved, then there would have to be some accounting for the runoff, meaning there would have to be some manner of drainage proposed for that versus just having it run towards the street or onto the road.
Okay. All right. Like I say, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Thank you.
Anything else, Mark?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on this project? Hearing none, we can close this, right, Dave? We're not waiting on anything.
That's correct.
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second to close the hearing. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron? Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Sandy? Yes. It's closed. We're going to ask for a standard order conditions plus several components to it. Let me try to say it. The surface material must be natural gravel. The road cannot be paved. It must remain pervious. All plowing is to be done in such a way as to not move gravel toward the wetland and maintain the proposed grade. Did I get everything?
And what about the fact of not having grass? You wanted something more natural where they were going to plant?
They're just going to throw seed down.
That was the concern was with it being on the other side and not where the drainage areas are going to be.
And even with that, I think Matt had mentioned they're going to try to use more like a wild seed mix type of mixture.
Yeah, because there won't be a lawn and there won't be mowing.
Well, there may have to be some weed whacking or mowing at some point. Otherwise, it may not function the way it needs to. So there would be potentially some maintenance that would have to occur in those swales in terms of trimming now and again. Yes.
Do you want to put that in the order of conditions?
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you like to say in the order of conditions?
We'll just call it that that the drainage swales have to be maintained in terms of cutting vegetation periodically and making sure they don't get filled up with sediment.
So the drainage swales must be maintained to serve their purpose.
Yes.
Anything else in the order of conditions? Need someone to make that motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor, Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Sandy? Okay, thank you. Matt, before you start anything, see Mr. Pichette, okay?
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaws, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 17, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Vicky Piacentini, 204 Glen Charlie Road, East Wareham, Massachusetts, 02538, to construct a dock located on Assessor's Map 129B4, Lot 24, 204 Glen Charlie Road, Wareham, Mass.
Is there anybody here to represent this project?
Yes, I'm Vicky Piacentini.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette, will you read to the project, please?
Yes. So the project site is at 204 Glen Charlie Road, and the project involves the construction of a dock in Glen Charlie Pond. The project is also within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. A 4 by 34 foot dock with a 10-foot wide T at the end of it is proposed, and is proposed to be a seasonal dock to be removed during the winter season. It would be my recommendation that the dock only be a straight length without the T, because that's typically what we have been requiring to minimize the footprint area. So I would recommend it be the 4 by 30 feet or 34 feet, whatever it might be, but without the T on the end. When this is removed during the winter time, storage of the dock section should be outside the 30-foot no activity zone to the pond. And as far as the project, we did not get a DEP file number as of yet, and we also have not received any comments from Mass Natural Heritage on this project. So at this point, I would have to recommend the hearing be continued until we get those pieces for this project. So that's where we are at this point.
Thank you. Vicki, anything to add?
No. That's it.
Questions?
I'm the husband, Richard. Do you, the T at the end, do you, that's not a problem, but do you want me to send something to you from the dock people with that now without the T?
Yeah, we would just have a revised plan. That would be great to just show the straight piece of the
straight
dock.
Okay, okay, yes.
Okay. Questions on the board, Michael?
Yeah, I got a question. I was there yesterday, and when the stock is in use, typically where in the backyard would it be used? Because I didn't see any stakes in the area or anything of that nature. Just out of curiosity, what?
You went from where?
I'm sorry.
Pretty much in the middle of the waterfront on our property.
Okay. Okay. I thought that would be the case, because if memory recalls, there were like some old stone steps going downstairs, going up to the water over that area.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that was the case. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Hurd.
Are we going to ask that this be staked?
Yes, I was going to ask that it be staked.
So that means during this next 2 weeks, they could stake it.
Yes, we need to
identify.
Right.
We need to identify where the particular access to this dock will be placed on their land.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say stake, wooden stakes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. With a little note on each stake is nice.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Hurd?
No.
Ron?
No, that's all I was going to say, is staking to see exactly where it is. And then obviously we're waiting on a couple of other things anyway. So, I mean, if I have any questions, I can ask them at the next meeting, but nothing else right now.
Kwame?
No questions. Thank you.
Mary?
No question.
Carol?
No questions.
Sandy, I have a question. I do have, will this dock be in the water?
Yes.
Why we need the staking?
Well, how will it just be floating? I mean, how will you have a fairly steep slope. How will you get down to the edge of the dock?
Well, it is steep, but you know, I walk down it now. You know, we just bought the house in December. You know, so we were just planning on the summer. We knew it was a process to, you know, get this approved. I mean, my maybe next step would be to go through it and see if I could put some, like my neighbors have, wouldn't they have stairs that go down to their water edge? But right now, I mean,
yeah, you can walk down the hill.
You can walk down it.
As long as we're not permitting at this particular time, you're not asking for stairs. And if you want, you've got to come back to us and ask for that.
Right, but we can walk down the hill to get on the dock. I mean, that's not an issue. I walked down there today.
Okay. And once you have, how are you going to remove the dock come winter time?
It's detachable and just pull it out onto my back lawn.
I think that's what we have the problem with. You're going to rake it over the slope of the bank, correct? Drag it over the slope.
Yeah, I mean, it comes in sections where, I would carry it up. I wouldn't be dragging it. I don't know. This is the first time we've ever moved near water. I mean, how far up does it have to go from the water edge during the winter?
I think, Dave, it has to be above the 30-foot no work zone from the water's edge.
Okay. Yeah,
and I have no idea where that 30-foot zone is. There's nothing on your particular document that tells us where the 30-foot line is.
Take it.
Okay, I can, so when you mean by that from like the end of my lawn down the slope to the water edge, that's where you want it to take.
Well, you have to find some way to identify what the 30-foot no work zone is so you know where you cannot store your dock.
Okay, yep. All right, I'll revise this and show that.
Okay. Great. Will the dock be attached? Will the dock be attached to the land in any way?
No, there would just be a ramp that comes off the dock that lays onto the edge of the land. So you go like a walk up onto it.
Okay, is there anybody here that would like to speak to this project? Because we're going to have to continue it. Hearing none, the only thing that we ask for is that the applicant find some way to stake out where the 30-foot, where the 30-foot area is off the water and where the mat for the dock would be placed.
And also how they're planning to get to the dock.
Well, they just said they're going to walk down the slope.
Walk down the hill. It's not that, I can walk down it. I just walked down it today.
All right, so I need a motion to continue until April 7th.
Motion to continue until April 7th.
Second.
A motion and I have a second. All in favor, Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, we're continued until April 7th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have continued hearings. We have a Warren QOZB. They've asked to be continued. Dave, did they give you a date?
To the next meeting, April 7th.
Great.
Is there anybody here that is here for this particular project? It has to be continued. Okay, I'll take a motion to continue until April 7th.
Motion.
Second.
Okay?
Second, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Sandy? Yes. Until the 7th. Thank you. The next one we have is Roger Keys. Anybody here for this project? We did get a revised plan.
Yes, Madam Chair, Jim Peterson from Alpha Survey.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Bichette?
Okay, let me just get this up here.
I gather we got the DEP?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this project site is at 7 Harborview Lane. And this project involves the construction of an addition, a garage, and a new driveway in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. A 24 by 26 foot garage and a 14 by 24 foot addition are proposed, approximately 65 feet from the top of the coastal bank. Excavation for the foundation had already been started at the site. So there is some activity already that has happened there. Also proposed is a new crushed stone driveway to access what would be the new garage. Hay bales and silt fence would be placed between the work and the coastal bank. We did get a DEP file number for this project. So I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added condition that the disturbed cut through in the slope in the back of the property be restored to the previous grades. So that's in this back section where they kind of carved into this hill to get to where the foundation is. So that's really all I have for this project at this time. And so, like I said, we did get the file number, and so I would recommend the issuance of the order with those conditions.
Thank you. Jim, anything to add?
No, Dave covered it all, and you know, we will fill in that area. That's definitely going to take place where we're going to fill in where it says C note 8.
Okay, questions? Michael?
Questions?
Ms. Hurd?
I just think that, Dave, we have to put down why. We know that this project was started early, but you said there were some extenuating circumstances why we would not be putting a charge onto this, a fee onto this case. Because if somebody goes back and looks at it and sees that it was started and doesn't have your background on it, then they're going to say we're not being consistent.
Yeah, and that's, you know, really subject to the commission. The commission could still issue a fine if they chose to, but I think there was a miscommunication in terms of where things were with the permitting on this as to why the contractor started to do some work there, but honestly, they shouldn't have started it because they technically didn't have the building permit in place. So, but I think there was just some confusion with a zoning board approval being issued where they thought they were able to begin, which really necessarily wasn't the case. So that's what I believe occurred here, Jim, if that's the way you recall it.
My understanding from the owner is that he did get a building permit.
Hold on.
Ron got it.
Okay.
Once again, sorry. My understanding from talking to the building owner is that he did get a building permit, and that's why he was surprised once conservation stepped in, is because he thought he was good to go. Otherwise, he wouldn't have started the excavation.
Yeah, and I think part of that, again, was because we didn't have a detailed plan like what we currently have. The initial plan was sort of vague and did not reflect the level of detail that this plan shows. And so I think that's where the problem arose, if you will.
Correct.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to recall in previous meetings with issues with people starting projects without our knowledge or, you know, getting a permit, that there was a case where the contractor or the owner thought that everything was good because they got one permit, but they didn't get everything that they needed. So I don't know that, I mean, I get it, but consistency, as you know, Ms. Hurd is saying, is I think important, and understanding the totality of it, and making sure that we're not raising any issues with another party saying that, well, you did this to me, but you didn't do this to them. So that would be my only caution there, also.
All right. It's up to the board what they'd like to do, but I'll continue. Ask Kwame, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Mary?
No question.
Carol?
No questions.
Sandy? None. Anybody on the line that would like to speak for or against this project? Hearing none.
Sandy, can you ask for a general idea from the board members on whether or not they want a fine levied?
A fine levy to the owner and to the contractor?
Well, that seems to be what we've been doing.
Yes.
Of late.
And what would you recommend a fine?
Well, if we have to do the fine, it comes out, I thought you have it written down. And for this project, starting a project, I think it was, your written one was $300.
Okay. So it's being discussed as whether or not we fine the homeowner and the contractor $300 each for starting this project without the conservation approval. Any comments, Michael?
Agreed. We just need to stay consistent. That's all.
Ms. Hurd.
The only way we can't do this is if David puts a notation in the record, and because he feels that it shouldn't be. So it's sort of, I'm leaning a little bit hard on Dave, because if he feels there shouldn't be any fee, then he needs to write that in the record so we can maintain consistency.
And he's going to lean back saying it's up to us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, I don't believe a fine should be issued. It's really a judgment call, like any of these cases, of the commission, you know. So if you want to maintain with consistency, then go with that.
Okay, Ron?
I mean, I got to go back with, and I think I've said this, you know, since my time with the commission started, is we have to stay consistent. You know, we can't make exceptions even if we feel that, you know, it was an honest mistake. We just need to stick with consistency. So I think that a fine should be issued.
Okay, Kwame?
I would have to agree. We have to maintain consistency.
Thank you. Mary?
I think we need to maintain our consistency.
Carol?
I agree on consistency.
Okay. Sandy, I do too. Someone take a motion on the standard order of conditions, which includes the reestablishing, just wait a minute, I know I want the words. There's a word I want. To restore the cut that had been previously.
The contour.
No.
Restore
to restore the cut that was done to get access to the foundation. Dave, what's the words I want?
Yeah, you got it right. To restore the disturbed slope in the back of the house.
Okay. Yep. The disturbed cut be restored, plus a $300 fine for the homeowner and a $300 fine for the contractor for starting work without the conservation approval. I think that is the motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes. Okie dokie. Jim, before you start anything, get a hold of Dave for the paperwork.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks to everyone.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you.
The next hearing is for Samuel Mello, and I believe we've got a request for a continuation until April 7th. Is there anybody here for that project? I'm hearing none. I'll take a motion to continue until April 7th.
Motion to continue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Andy? Yes, it's continued. The next hearing we have is for Borrego Solar Systems for 140 Tyhonet Road. Anybody here for that project?
Good evening, Stacy Minahan with Beals and Thomas, and Zach Farkas with Borrego Solar is on the line as well.
Thank you. Dave?
All right, yep, I'm just pulling the plans up here.
Certainly been a lot of discussion on these projects.
Okay, so the project site is the 140 Taihonet Road project site, and the project involves the installation of a solar array within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and to an inland bank. A 5 megawatt solar array is proposed within the buffer zone to the wetland and the isolated wetlands at the site. And it's proposed to clear approximately 76 acres of land of existing mixed pine forest to accommodate the project. Work proposed would be to the limit of the 50-foot no activity zone line in several locations. And the project would also result in the removal of 2 million yards of sand at the project site. This is something that hasn't come up previously in discussions about this. So I did have a question about what kind of actual time frame would it take to move that kind of volume of material. The plans have been revised since we initially started looking at this to reflect changes recommended by the commission, by the town engineer through the planning board review. The town engineer has completed his review of the project and has made some recommendations that the planning board could issue the special permit for the project based on the latest plan set, which is dated 2/19/21, with some recommended conditions. The only question I had is just to verify again the question I had previously about the earth removal work, and then also to verify that the fence limit or the activity limit would be outside the 50-foot no activity zone. And we do have a DEP file number for the project.
Okay. Stacy, Zach, anything to add?
Sure, thank you. A couple updates. So with this final plan set, the originally proposed clearing was, I think it was 76 acres. You'd noted, Dave, it's 65.35 acres now, and it's likely more on the order of 1.6 million cubic yards of sand. I think that 2 million cubic yards came from a rough calc that Charlie Mr. Rowley had undertaken during the peer review. Just as an update for the commission, it's been a while since we discussed this project in detail, but when we last did, the remaining item was the peer review, which needed to be satisfied, which we've subsequently done. The changes in this version of the plan were fairly minor, removing panels from a basin where Mr. Rowley preferred they not be in there, making some clearer access to some of the basins, clarifying loaming and seeding notes, and then adding construction sequencing notes. So those are really the updates for the plan. Dave, to answer your 50-foot question, it remains true that the only work within the 50-foot for which we had requested a waiver is in the southwest corner of the site. You can see there's an existing access road that comes down to the south and then bends right near this agricultural canal. So that wetland symbol there is for an existing agricultural canal. And that road passes through the 50-foot under the existing condition. To the extent necessary, if it is necessary, we're asking that the commission allow that road be improved on the landward side away from the canal to facilitate access. There's no other grading, stormwater fence, or any other work like that within that 50-foot, as we had discussed with the commission at the last hearing.
So to clarify, the perimeter fence will be outside the 50-foot.
Yes, the perimeter fence is actually very close to the basin. And I do actually have a little rendered markup because I knew that this had been a question before, and it's challenging to see on the plan. So if it's helpful, I'm happy to pull that up. But yes, it's well outside of the 50-foot. And let me correct myself on the cubic yards of material. It's 1.3, not 1.6. I think I misspoke.
And what about the question of the time frame to actually move that kind of material?
Sure, Dave. Zach Farkas here, for the record, Borrego Solar. Right now, we're contemplating starting the solar construction in the summer or fall of 22, which means basically they'd have approximately the time from the approval of this project until then to remove that material.
Okay.
We have how many potential vernal pools on this property?
One potential vernal pool in the vicinity of the 140 Tohonet site. So there are 2 isolated wetlands. Yep, right there.
Yep.
The westerly isolated wetland did have egg masses in it when we undertook the vernal pool study. So that is a potential vernal pool, and a 100-foot setback has been maintained from that system.
All right, questions on the board? Excuse me, Molly. Come on. Sorry, I have a very annoying cat right now. Michael.
No, none.
Just heard.
No.
Ron.
Yeah, just one question in regards to the 1.3 million cubic yards of material to be moved. When was that decided or talked about? Because this is, we've been talking about this project for a long time now, and this is the first that it's being brought up. So when was this decided or made necessary for the project to happen?
Yeah, so this has, and Zach, feel free to jump in if you prefer, but this has been part of the project since the original submitted plans. The grading has always been depicted as this, and I can't say off the top of my head if we addressed it explicitly in the Conservation Commission filing, but it was noted in the Planning Board application as well. So it's always been a part of the project that was discussed at the public meetings for it and shown on the plans.
Yeah, so Ron, we've only seen the plan with the solar on it. Buried in the doc, 70 some odd pages that came out in the notice of intent, there was a depiction of the hill, if you could, okay. But it was there, but you're right. It's never been discussed at conservation, only did it come up with a discussion in planning that was, what? All that land has to go? So.
Yeah, because it is quite a bit of earth to move. But that's it. That's the only question that I have.
Okay. I think the only comment, if I may, Madam Chair, add to Stacy's comments is we are before the planning board and this commission for the solar project. The actual removal of that material will be contemplated under a different permit. It's not part of the project per se, but what we're trying to do is represent the future existing conditions prior to our start. Now, if the gravel removal does not remove that much, we'll be back in front of the boards revising our grading plans, but that was the intent. And just to make it clear that this project approval does not necessarily trigger the removal of that material. A separate gravel removal permit per the bylaw would be forthcoming from the landowner, but it's separate and apart from this project.
Thank you. Kwame.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the facts, like
who's this guy?
The extraction of all this materials. I mean, where's this all going?
And as Zach said, that will be discussed when they ask for the permit to remove that particular soil. That really is outside of our scope. There is a particular a bylaw in town that says where this soil can go within Wareham, or a fee for removing it from Wareham, and that's a completely different discussion. Okay. But my question would have to be what road would be used to remove all this, and will be any close to the wetlands or the vernal pool in order to remove this soil. But I digress. Sorry, Mary, any questions? Kwame, was that it for you?
Yes, that was just a general question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
All this large removal, how will it affect the drainage in that area?
That's a very good question. Zach, Stacy?
Sure. So the stormwater design maintains the existing flow paths. So, you know, we have a series of design points if you look within our stormwater report, and those included looking at the various wetland systems individually as well to make sure that we're maintaining hydrology. So although the elevations are changing, the watersheds are not significantly changing. So the project site is in compliance with the applicable stormwater requirements.
And who has oversight of that stormwater requirements? Is that planning?
So planning reviewed it, and Mr. Rowley did review it in detail and you know, provided comments, and we made revisions to address his comments.
Thank you. Anything else, Mary?
No, that's it.
Carol?
No questions.
Mike.
Sandy?
Sandy?
Yeah.
I have a question. I didn't.
Yes, please.
One is this sand or gravel that's being removed? You've used the term, each term. Or not?
I think we can just say soil.
Soil? Is that
soil, unless they've actually drilled down and know what layers go for what. Stacy, has Zach, anything been done as to what's in this hill for soil?
We've done some geotechnical testing. Of course, there's the previous project that is not immediately north, but further north, the project that's been called 160 Tohonet, that's under construction right now, that I think this board has visited and approved back in end of 2018, I believe. So very, very close, where some excavation has gone on. So we're very confident that the soil contents are very similar. I guess to kind of get a little bit more specific to the question, it's certainly more sand than gravel that's of value. And then another just small point is when the excavation occurs, the forest mat will remain and then be respread over the site after the sand and gravel is exported.
So my other question is sort of a follow-up. What happens if this removal of this sand gravel combo isn't done? Does that negate your project?
Then the way I would sum it up would be our plans, if they don't match the plans that are before you now, meaning I think that's your implication, that what if a different amount of soil more or less is removed, then we'd have to come back in front of the planning board to confirm that, or to, I guess I would say, modify our plans and modify our stormwater control report. I'm not sure if there'd be any additional jurisdiction here. There would be with the commission if, you know, the footprint of the project changed, but to simply say if the plans are not constructed as they've been presented by Stacy and myself to planning board, we'd have to go back for a modification to that permit.
Okay, thank you.
So what you have on your, as Dave has brought up, the particular plan that shows the elevations or the steepness of this particular hill that has to be removed. Am I reading that correctly, Dave?
Yes.
And yeah, as anything else, would be very concerned about the erosion control as the top soil is removed and all that under stuff is exposed and subject to storm water erosion. But anybody on the particular call that would like to speak to this project, please identify yourself. Nobody. Wow.
Yeah. I think Miss Papalardo has her hand raised.
Good evening, everybody. I've been at most of these hearings also. And I just want to go on the record. Yes, I'm with the Wareham Land Trust. Yes, I'm also a citizen of Wareham. And I really wish people understood the value that the forests in this town contribute to our water supply, to cleaning the water, to the rivers that run by it, to cleaning the air, and they are one of nature's defenses against climate change. And the number of acreage that is being destroyed in this town is never going to come back. This particular property, you're removing a hillside. That's never going to come back to what it was. If the trees could talk, they would be screaming as each one gets cut down. And all of the animals that live there, and yes, there are animals. We know there's endangered and threatened species there. We know there are box turtles. They're all being eliminated at the bat of an eye for dollars. I just need to go on the record. It's very, very sad. And I wish there was a way to stop this. I do believe in solar, but not at the expense of a forest. There shouldn't be any more forest cutting until there is solar on every house and commercial building. No more forest cutting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Nancy's turn.
Yep, it's my turn. I have a question about this.
For the record.
Yeah, Nancy McHale.
Thank you.
West Wareham. I have a question for the applicants. Was it considered in laying out this array to not remove all of the soil, to build it on a hillside? And why was that not done? I mean, this is, you know, insult to injury for the land, to take not only the trees, but all of the soils, which are irrevocably going to affect the hydrology regardless of what you say.
What?
Sorry.
Or fructose? Yeah.
Someone want to respond to Nancy?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Nancy, I'm speaking a little bit out of turn here because, as I said, we're developing the solar project and I'm speaking a bit for Makepeace here. But I can tell you, when we look for sites to develop, when we look at the portfolio of land that Makepeace has, you know, they've got a lot of stuff going on throughout their land holdings. And a part of what their plan is to excavate sand and gravel for their use in their agricultural facilities. This area is targeted as the site that it was going to happen. So you could never know for sure, but I would venture to say that if the solar was not going here, you guys would be seeing a sand and gravel removal permit regardless, because this is a good site to harvest the sand.
Interesting concept, but in all honesty, I'm not buying it. That's an awful lot for agricultural use, regardless of how many acres they've got. I appreciate you taking a stab at it, but it's still an unacceptable devastation to the hillside. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I just hope that at some point the dollars can figure out how to make it financially beneficial to put solar over parking lots on houses and to leave the natural environment alone. Thank you very much.
Anybody else to comment on this project?
Wow.
Dave, we got a statement on the rare and endangered species. Didn't we get something from the state that says they're not here? It's hard to believe there aren't any turtles there, but wasn't there a...
I don't believe this was mapped. Stacy, if you want to just verify that.
Yes, that's correct. This is not within mapped habitat.
So I feel sorry for that turtle that went the wrong way. Okay.
Nope. One other comment, I guess, is so when, in terms of if a soil removal permit is required, when is that going to occur?
Are you asking?
It should be forthcoming soon. Excuse me.
Sorry, Zach. And who approves who? What organization, what committee approves it?
The Board of Selectmen.
Hey, Board of Selectmen. He just left.
He ran away.
Yes, he did. He dropped his dishes off and took off. He knew this topic was coming up.
So to answer your question directly, Dave, it's a bit of a chicken and egg concept, right? So what we were trying to do was establish the footprint for the solar project. And Stacy and I, obviously in coordination with the landowner, took our best guess at the future grades after excavation. So now that we have this set, meaning that the planning board hearing has closed, as long as there's no more material modifications from this commission, the footprint will be set, thereby establishing kind of the limit of work that the sand and gravel permit is going to operate in. And so with that, a permit will be coming very soon that will show the exact same grades that have been approved by, or that have been shown to the planning board and the Conservation Commission. So a long way of saying they're in process right now. They'll be in front of the Board of Selectmen shortly.
Okay.
Okay.
You had another question, I think, Sandy.
Okay.
Kathy Papalardo again. I don't believe the planning board has approved this yet.
No, they have not.
Okay. Just wanted to be
clear.
Clear.
Excuse me, I misspoke. I had said, I think I might have said approved. I meant closed if I said that. Excuse me.
Did they close the hearing and it's not approved, but they haven't voted on it yet?
Correct. Yeah, they had a couple questions on their decision, and that's upcoming at the meeting on this coming Monday.
Yep. Well, I guess the question to Mr. Bichette, have they satisfied all the conditions that the Conservation Commission has authority over?
They have as far as the things we had discussed previously. The only issue that didn't quite come up previously was this whole soil removal thing. And, you know, again, that's going to be a separate matter for the Board of Selectmen to deal with. The only thing I would, I guess, bring up, if that is going to be required or going to be the case, technically, for us to approve an order of conditions, the applicant is supposed to have applied for or obtained all other local permits. So if that is required and it hasn't happened yet, then technically we shouldn't close our hearing yet.
At what point do you say, well, so-and-so won't do it until conservation closes, conservation won't do it until so-and-so closes, so where does it start? I mean, we can put in order of conditions only saying that only if approval is done by planning and only if approval is done by the selectmen to remove the soil and gravel.
I don't think we need a condition for the planning board, but I do think there should be a condition for the sand and gravel if that's required.
Because if the sand and gravel are not removed, then the whole plan has to be changed. The whole plan was subject to change.
Right, in terms of the grading, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Well, what would the board?
What's the difference, Sandy, if we just put it off until till we hear from the other committees?
So you want to postpone until there is a hearing, until planning board and selectmen, planning board makes their ruling and selectmen makes their ruling on sand and soil removal. Is that your recommendation?
That would probably be my hope.
Okay, then can we do a motion to continue the hearing until we'll try for April 7th, pending the response from planning and selectmen?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and accept to continue until April 7th. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, we're continued until April 7th, pending selectmen and planning.
And
yes.
I was going to say, not that it particularly matters because I think planning will certainly be set by them, but the requirement is to obtain or apply for all obtainable. So
yes, okay, then I'll put this way, apply, yes. All right, then we'll continue until April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you all, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, extension request.
I
wish I
did. So this request is for a site at 31 Crab Cove Terrace, and this project involved the reconstruction of a retaining wall. This is in the Parkwood area. This involved the reconstruction of a retaining wall and the construction of a deck at this property. So the retaining wall part of the project has been done, but the last piece of getting the deck finished has not quite been completed. And due to reasons relative to COVID and other issues, they just have not had the chance to finish that off. And so they're requesting a 1-year extension for their order of conditions, which I would recommend.
So moved. Oh, sorry, Cindy.
Yep, that's it.
Second.
I have a motion to extend for 1 year. I have a second. All in favor, Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol? Sandy? Yes. So Ellis has an extension for 1 year. Okay, enforcement orders.
Yeah, so the first one we have is for Dylan Arsenal, and the site is 1067 Main Street. So at this property, there's been some alteration of the land within the buffer zone to Tremont Pond. And so I had reached out and spoken to Mr. Arsenal. We met at his site and kind of went over what was being done there, what was going on. And so I've asked him to come into the meeting tonight to discuss that. Let me just pull up some photos here.
And I see him here, so. Dylan, you can unmute yourself and Mr. Pichette will bring up some pictures and then you can speak to what happened. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm not.
Hold on a second, I didn't move. My wife is running her consultation commission meeting.
And we don't want to hear you on your phone. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Alan.
Hi, guys.
Bye, Alan.
I'm being thrown out.
I think Dave, oh, there you go. You blinked, so I know you're not frozen.
No, I'm just trying to get to the right spot here so I can find these pictures, but I got so many on this card. I'm having a little bit of difficulty just getting to it, but just hold on 1 second here.
The owner wouldn't want you to pull up some different property there, right, Dave?
That's right.
Well, we're waiting for pictures. Can we talk about what happened?
Yeah, so like I said, there was some work done that involved scraping the land in the buffer zone to the pond. So I've got this here now. Let me just share this so you can see it. So that's Tremont Pond in the back there. And what there was there was some debris at this site that I think was sort of there previously from another owner. And they ended up bringing a backhoe in and started moving some stuff around and kind of got doing a little bit more work than they should have without conservation approval. Then they kind of took some cuttings and stockpiled it down by the pond as well. So again, in speaking to Mr. Arsenal, he's understanding that he's got to remove this material and that he's going to have to submit a filing with us to address some of these concerns and issues to get them straightened out. And again, this material here, he's stated that is all going to be removed. He just had it there temporarily, but that is going to be removed. And then there was a section here where some vegetation was cut. So that also needs to be restored as well. So that's essentially what we're dealing with here at this site.
Okay. Dylan, any comment?
No, I'm present. I would like to thank Dave. He was very clear and helpful in explaining the violations and the concerns and the steps needed to rectify them. So thank you.
No problem. Oh, that's a different site.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to ratify the enforcement order.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
I have a motion to accept and a second to ratify the enforcement order. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Kwame?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes. So you'll be coming before us with a plan of restoration?
Yes, I believe he's going to be working with JC Engineering, or at least that's what he had initially mentioned. Dylan, is that still the case?
Yes, I'm getting a quote right now. I couldn't find the plot plan from when I bought the house, and from what I sent you, there seems like there's some discrepancies. So I'll get that surveyed, and then I'll send it over with the rest of the application that I already sent.
Okay, thank you. So no more work. Thank you. All right, next one.
The one thing that he had asked is if potentially he could move that brush pile away from the pond and sort of either burn it or get rid of it. I'm fine with that if the commission's okay with it, because there's no reason to leave it there anymore. I asked him not to do anything further until the commission reviewed it, and therefore that's why he didn't do anything with it.
Okay, so remove and burn the brush pile, remove the tires and things like that. So removal of the items there, I think, should be fine. Just no more clearing of the land.
Yes.
Just for the record, there was no clearing of the land.
You scraped it.
Is scraping and clearing the same thing?
Yeah, I saw some trees down.
Yeah, in other words, no more alterations with the machine other than just to get rid of the materials as mentioned.
Understood.
Thank you. Next one, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The next one is a site at 22 Traprock Lane in Onset, which is next to Point Independence Yacht Club. It's sort of on the downward side of their edge of their parking lot. And this was a site where some dump truck loads of fill were placed in the coastal flood zone at this site with no review or approval from the commission. So I had sent out an enforcement order on this. I'm not sure if that was received and if anybody's here on the line for this. Is there anybody here for this issue?
Yes, I am here. I'm the current owner of the property.
Okay. And you are?
I am Kevin McBadgen.
Okay. I have a picture of the dump. See the dump piles of dirt?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah, so the issue here is that you can't place fill within a coastal flood zone without first getting that permitted by the Conservation Commission. So that's the violation essentially. And so that's why this letter was sent to you. It's actually, I'd meant to send it a little while ago because I know this has been done, a little while back, but it just sort of got caught up with other things, but I finally just got around to sending it out. But anyway, that's the nature of the violation, is you really can't just fill areas in the flood zone without first getting permits from the Conservation Commission.
Well, what happened is the fill, I didn't bring in fill for myself. What had happened was my neighbor, Clive Olson, was doing an excavation for his house on 35 Maple Street, and over the wall there, he asked me if he could deposit his excavation castings on Traprock Lane temporarily until he could bring it back onto his property and then reuse it as backfill because the size of his lot was limited. And this was a conversation I had over the wall between us. And I said, sure, go ahead and do it. So the fill came. I got to say, it was probably more than I was anticipating, but it also went. And so the property is back to the way it was before he came there. And I guess I'm ignorant to it, but that was the crux of how that fill came and how that fill went. And I'm thinking maybe 3-4 weeks it sat there, and then it came and it went. And so
you're saying all that fill has been removed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no, you look back before the pictures was taken and it's exactly the same way as it was before. There's no, if you saw pictures right now, you wouldn't know anything happened there other than we were in the process of recapturing the lawn there anyway. And so now we're just, grade it back and plant grass what was there before. And that,
okay.
I guess I didn't realize I would have needed a permit. It was like, yeah, go ahead, Clive, do it. And that was that. I was being a good neighbor, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So what I'd like to do maybe is meet with you there and kind of go over it. I didn't have a phone number to reach you, so the only way I could reach you was to send you this letter, and that's how, I had to make contact since I didn't have a phone number. So if we can, I'd like to schedule a time if you could call me at my office and we could set up a time to meet there and kind of go over this.
Yeah, I certainly am, perfectly willing to put back the way it was. I meant no harm to the conservation of my area. I mean, I've made it my mission to sort of clean up the property over these last 3 years that I've owned it. So yeah, I'm on board for whatever you guys suggest. And I guess my future desires, it would just be a lawn again. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Like I said, I did not realize the fill had been removed at this stage. So like I said, I'll just want to meet there. We can kind of go over it and verify what's what and see if there's any other minor things that might need to happen. But I'm glad to hear that the fill has been taken out of there. Yeah,
and I just, for Clive's purpose, I mean, they were proactive in a way. I mean, when they brought the fill over there, they set up a silk fence around it while it sat there.
Yep.
And then, honestly, I don't live there personally. I'm sitting here over in Plymouth right now. I do have a tenant in the house. I own the barn also, and that's just a wood shop.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I was in the wood shop when the previous owner owned it, so it's actually kind of a cool wood shop, really.
Better now. I'll show you inside when we meet. It's much improved.
Nice.
So yeah, and at any rate, yeah. And I apologize for any inconvenience that I'm bringing upon you, but that was the simple crux of the whole thing. The fill came, the fill went, and.
Yeah, when the fill piles showed up, we thought you were basically just filling in the yard to raise the elevation because at one point the previous owner had actually talked to us about doing that, but he never came around and got any approvals. He just never moved forward with it. Then, of course, he's since passed away and whatever. But then, so when this showed up, we were like, oh, okay, maybe this new owner decided just to do the project that this other guy thought of doing but never did, and that's what sort of triggered us, plus the sheer volume of it. It's just a lot of truckloads to be dumped there.
Yeah. I was surprised even my own self at how much, but then I look at the size of Clive's house and then I didn't
yeah
much. But then again, it all went back. Maybe it all didn't go back into his hole, but it all went away.
Okay.
That was his promise, that he would stockpile it there temporarily, and when he was done with it, it would go away. And that's exactly what happened. So.
Okay. Nothing further, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So your phone number is going to be at the town I'll be.
I think my number's on the letter I sent you on the last page. It's on there, or on the town website. Or I could just tell it to you right now if you want to jot it down.
Yeah, we'll take it down.
Yeah, we'll take it down. And you know, I'm available any afternoon. I actually teach carpentry at Upper Cape Tech, so you know, any day is good after school. You know, from 2:30 on, any given day, I'm around.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the number is 508-291-3100, and my extension is 6505.
And your name is?
Dave Pichette.
Dave Pichette. Okay, Dave. Yeah, I look forward to the meeting. And again, I apologize for any inconvenience to you people and my neighbors or whoever, but it was, honest to God, it was a knee jerk. Yeah, Clive, go ahead. You know, and I didn't think anything about conservation.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Very good.
Oh, we'll put this on the next meeting's agenda for discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Anything else, Dave?
I don't have anything else now.
I have been informed that the work at the Dick's Pond spill has been completed, so they should be giving us a notice of intent shortly, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Well, they had to take some fences down. They had to remove soil. Had to take some tree down. We were very fortunate that there wasn't a whole lot of heating fuel and that the wind were onshore, so it didn't spread all over the pond. They did take the level of the pond down. Mr. Oh God, now I can't remember. Atwood took the level of the pond down to help with the cleanup. So that shouldn't have happened, and they did a good job of cleaning. So we will be talking about that when they come before us formally. Anything else? Michael?
The only other thing I had was to mention, some of you may have seen or gotten some information about the MACC annual conference, and I didn't know if there was anybody who was going to be interested in classes this year for that. Just I can email that, but I didn't know if you might have already just gotten that directly to yourselves about the MACC conference.
Zoom conference. I did.
You did?
I did.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so anybody who might be interested in attending any of those classes, just let me know. That way I can address that and get people registered, or you can register yourselves online. So yes, Elisa.
On the following similar subject, did anybody listen to Alan Pease's record, his report today on solar siting?
Yeah, we did.
Did anybody get to listen to it?
I did not get to listen to that, unfortunately, because I was kind of wrapped up in gearing up for this meeting, but I would have liked to have seen that. I'm hoping it'll be available like afterwards to re-review, but how was that?
You know what? I signed up for it and I totally forgot, and I was out. And
it was phenomenal. It will be available when they tell us where it is. I will share with everybody else. It was an hour and a half of just pure information. It was phenomenal.
I figured it would be, and I did write him a letter asking him.
I see Kathy get a thumbs up. I thought it was absolutely, yep. Learned a lot.
Would it have provided a lot of good insight based on some of the sites we've been reviewing?
It was very much, there has to be a trade-off between the carbon removal loss of the trees and the solar and whatever. And so there was a lot of discussion about clearing land is probably the cheapest way to go. Putting it on a roof, the roof doesn't last long. Putting on a landfill, that sort of like compresses and changes that. Putting it over a parking lot, very expensive because the cost of the steel, and went on and on. So there was a lot there. Kathy, I see you've unmuted. You want to add to it?
Oh, I thought it was excellent, and it's been a long time coming. As they said, they want to This involved Massachusetts and Rhode Island. It was the two states collaborating on this, and there's both states are having similar problems in whether it was primarily forests. I think it was just under 50% of the solar is going on forested lands.
Yep, 49. Very good.
Well, almost 50. I took notes. I don't have them in front of me right now. Everybody knows something needs to be done, and they made it sound like Massachusetts is waking up to the fact, and they need to stop incentivizing, with the words they use, stop incentivizing solar, because as Sandy said, it's all about the money.
Right. Yeah, well, that's it. Whatever way they're going to incentivize is where people are going to go do the projects, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, they said they want to incentivize other locations and decentivize forests and those kind of places.
Yep.
Yeah, pay me to put it on my roof.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. That's right.
You know, I mean, there's so many options out there, and I just think that a lot of it's going in the direction that it shouldn't. I'm a huge proponent of renewable energies. I think solar is fantastic. You know, I live in a community where I'm still fighting to be able to put solar on my roof because some people don't think it looks pretty. Well, guess what? They've streamlined solar. I could make the solar panels look like the shingles on my roof. Like there's so many different ways to not have to look at something so, in some people's eyes, ugly. But, you know, we're a country that is built on the dollar right now, and anything we can do to make money, and not looking at the long-term effects of, you know, maybe not over the next 5 or 10 years isn't going to make a big difference, but what's it going to look like in 20 years, 30 years when my kids are older and they're having to deal with the decisions we've made? You know, obviously that's my personal hat, not my conservation hat. You know, but, you know, I have to separate, which I do to the best of my abilities. But I do agree that there needs to be change made. There needs to be, you know, we can come up with legislation and laws for everything else. Why can't we come up with some type of a new legislation to protect what we have?
And if any of you listened to the Selectmen's meeting last night, they're putting an article on the special spring in the annual spring for payment in lieu of taxes on those 3 solar projects for Borrego. And they're saying that it means about $600,000 to the town, and that's big money. And it's going to be a tough fight to say to the town, save our forest and stop looking at the bottom dollar line. So that's the tough.
How often? Or just once?
No.
Or is it
frequently?
Every year?
I got Kathy, Nancy, you were there. Was it annual?
It's annually, and it goes up 2.5% a year.
Yep. So it's awful hard to fight that type of a dollar when the town's looking for every penny it needs. So
anybody wants to give to the library, we're trying to bridge the gap, just to let you know. Every little bit helps.
So if there's nothing else across the board, if nothing else,
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. I got a second. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Everybody wave your hand. Good night.
Good
We're
night.
adjourned. Thank you.